All right, so picture this. The WNBA boardroom, fluorescent lights flickering, execs looking stressed, iced coffees melting, and someone's nervously scrolling Sophie Cunningham's TikTok on a cracked iPhone. Because, yet again, Sophie has dropped a truth bomb. And the league? They're scrambling. Why? Because instead of being the lesson they tried to make her, Sophie Cunningham has become a legend.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
Let's rewind. The WNBA thought they were going to shut her down, hand out a couple of quiet fines for her spicy podcast episodes and snarky TikToks, slap her on the wrist for speaking too boldly, especially when she had the audacity to defend Caitlin Clark, and hope the internet would move on. But instead, they created a monster, a brand-building, villain-embracing, viral moment machine. And now, Sophie's not just playing the game, she's playing them. Let's start with the fines. These weren't for technical fouls. These weren't for fights or on-court drama. These are straight up for talking. Talking about Caitlin Clark. Talking about favoritism. Talking about the league's messy, inconsistent officiating. And most of all, talking about the silence that surrounds the WNBA when its biggest stars are mistreated or left unprotected. And for that, she got fined. But here's where it gets hilarious. Because the more the league tried to shut her up, the more everyone else started listening. Her TikTok followers? Through the roof. Podcast clips? Viral. Sponsorships? Knock knock, it's Nike. The fines weren't silencing her. They were giving her a platform upgrade. And now Sophie Cunningham has become the WNBA's unofficial spokesperson for saying the things no one else dares to. You know that girl at the family dinner who drops one hard truth and suddenly everyone's wide awake? That's Sophie in the W. She's not just spilling tea. She's throwing the whole damn kettle through the front window. And while the league's been quietly cutting checks to shut her up, Sophie's out here turning those fines into content. She literally laughs about them, posts memes, drops clips like, "Thanks for the donation to my brand, WNBA." She's not running from the villain label. She's monogramming it in gold thread and selling it on merch. Meanwhile, the league strategy? Falling apart. Because fans have started connecting the dots. They're noticing who gets fined and who doesn't. Sophie makes one bold statement and gets docked. But other players? Paige Buchers drops a few spicy comments about rival teams. Nothing. Angel Reese claps back at refs. Crickets. Kelsey Plum fires off a controversial soundbite. No penalty. It's not just messy. It's obvious. The league is playing favorites. And now, thanks to Sophie pulling back the curtain, we all see it. She even said it herself. She pointed out, publicly, that Paige Buchers gets the princess treatment. That some stars are given soft fouls, safe space, and PR protection, while others are made into cautionary tales. And if you think Sophie's wrong, just ask Caitlin Clark how her ribs feel after last month. Because here's the other piece of the puzzle, Caitlin. Sophie's rise as the league's loudest voice comes directly after she started defending Caitlin Clark, who has arguably been treated like the WNBA's punching bag since day one. Constantly fouled, constantly ignored by refs, constantly told to take it, while Paige and others are held up like royalty. And the moment Sophie stepped into that fire to call out, boom, fines. Funny how that works. It's almost like the league wants silence more than fairness. Like their image of growth and sisterhood doesn't include actual accountability when players speak out. But instead of falling in line, Sophie said, "Cool, find me again. I'll turn it into a viral campaign." And that's exactly what she did. She's not afraid of the league anymore, because she doesn't need their approval. Her fan base is hers. Her brand is hers. And every time the league tries to dim her light, they make her shine brighter. Honestly, give her a fake award right now. Most likely to turn a $10,000 fine into $100,000 worth of brand equity. And she'd wear that like a crown. This is more than just fines. It's an exposure of everything broken in the WNBA's player relations playbook. Because you can't say you care about empowering women athletes and then punish them for speaking out about injustice. You can't say you support transparency and then penalize players who hold up a mirror. And you definitely can't talk about growing the game while cherry-picking who gets the full support of the league. You want to grow the game? Let your players speak. Let them be human. Let them call out flaws without slapping them with fines like they're out of line for demanding fairness. And here's the twist. The league could have turned this into a win. They could have leaned into Sophie's platform, opened the floor for real dialogue, used her voice to reach new fans, and show that the WNBA is listening. Instead, they went full villain arc and accidentally created a star they can't control. Meanwhile, Sophie's using every fine as fuel. She's not just surviving the league's punishments. She's thriving because of them, turning penalties into power moves, turning controversy into currency. And fans? They love it, because Sophie represents what so many people are feeling. Fed up. Fed up with the silence. Fed up with the double standards. Fed up with watching players like Caitlin Clark get chewed up while the league pretends it's all part of the process. This isn't just a player rebellion. It's a cultural moment. A turning point. A wake-up call for a league that spent too long trying to micromanage optics instead of managing its actual problems. And at the center of it all, Sophie Cunningham, the accidental icon, the league's loudest critic, the one who got fined into fame. So now the question isn't, will the league stop her? It's can they? And honestly, probably not. Because the more they push, the bigger she gets. The more they try to control the narrative, the faster she hijacks it. The more they fine her, the more followers she gains. It's reverse psychology on a business model, and Sophie knows it. So what happens next? Does the league finally address the favoritism and inconsistencies? Do they sit down with Sophie and Caitlin and actually listen for once? Or do they keep pretending this isn't blowing up in real time? Because let's be clear, fans are watching, brands are watching, and this fine culture is becoming a PR disaster that's boosting the very voices it was meant to silence. Sophie Cunningham isn't backing down. And if the league doesn't figure out how to work with players instead of punishing them, they're going to end up watching from the sidelines while the real stars take the spotlight and the power with them. At this point, it's not just a Sophie Cunningham situation, it's an institutional crisis. The WNBA tried to play chess. They tried to discipline one of their most outspoken players with quiet fines and hush-hush reprimands. They thought if they handed Sophie a few penalties for her comments, she'd back down, fall in line, smile politely, and pretend like everything was fine. Instead, she lit a match. And now the league is watching the whole strategy burn from the inside out. Because Sophie Cunningham didn't just take those fines, she framed them. She turned them into a marketing tool. A talking point, a badge of honor. She's laughing on TikTok, smirking on podcasts, literally daring the WNBA to fine her again. And the internet ate it up. Because let's be honest, fans love a rebel. Especially when the rebel is exposing the quiet, hypocritical rot that's been festering behind the league's "We are women, hear us roar" marketing facade. You can't call yourself a progressive league and then fine your players for having a voice. You can't claim to empower women and then punish them when they speak the truth. And Sophie? She's not scared. She sees exactly what's going on. She knows these fines aren't about conduct. They're about control. They're about image. She's being punished not for doing something wrong, but for making the WNBA uncomfortable. For refusing to play nice when her friend and fellow player Caitlin Clark was being brutalized on the court and abandoned off of it. Let's be very clear here. Sophie stepped in because no one else would. She said the quiet part out loud. That Caitlin Clark was being targeted. That refs weren't doing their jobs. That the league wasn't protecting its most valuable player. She didn't drop a cryptic tweet. She didn't like a shady post. She said it directly with her full chest, and the league came after her for it. That's not leadership. That's damage control. But plot twist, the damage is on them, not her. Because Sophie is now one of the most talked about names in the WNBA, and not for her stat line, but for her audacity, her honesty, her refusal to play by a rule book that only seems to apply to some players. Let's talk about that. Because when you look at the selective enforcement of these so-called conduct rules, the favoritism is loud. Paige Buchers? Protected. Polished. Praised. Angel Reese? Polarizing, but left alone. Kelsey Plum? Dropping hot takes on the regular, no fines. Sophie Cunningham, fined for breathing too loud. It's almost laughable. Except it's not funny. It's dangerous. Because it tells players and fans that the WNBA doesn't care about consistency. It cares about compliance, about curating a narrative, one where some stars are elevated and others are managed. And right now, Sophie's not playing along. She's flipping the script. She's not crying about the fines. She's turning them into punchlines. Every time the WNBA hits her with another penalty, her following grows. Her sponsors grow. Her power grows. It's like they try to ground her, and she used the punishment as jet fuel. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark's still sidelined, still waiting for the league to say something. Anything. Still being treated like the rookie who's supposed to be grateful, even while carrying the entire league on her back like it's a one-woman show. And Sophie? She saw it. She called it. And for that, she's the villain? Nope. She's the blueprint. This is exactly what happens when players realize they don't need to be cute and quiet anymore. They can build their own platforms, speak their truth, connect directly to fans. The WNBA tried to gatekeep the spotlight, and Sophie ripped the gates off the hinges. And you know what? The fans are with her, because the audience is not stupid. They see the double standards, the selective fines, the page favoritism, the league looking the other way while Clark gets body-checked in every game, the suspicious silence when certain players talk, and the deafening penalties when others do. People are finally saying the word no sports league ever wants to hear: rigged. Whether it is or not doesn't even matter anymore. The perception is the problem, and the league let that grow unchecked. Instead of addressing the favoritism, they punished the one person willing to talk about it. Now Sophie's the voice of a whole movement. And don't get it twisted. This isn't some PR stunt. She's not playing a character. She's fed up, and that's what makes it powerful. She's not trying to be famous. She just stopped caring about keeping everyone else comfortable. She's not just going viral. She's going real. And that's why this whole thing is backfiring on the WNBA so hard. They tried to make an example out of her, but all they did was expose their own mess. Sophie's now getting more engagement than some WNBA team's entire official accounts. She's the main character, and not because she asked for it, but because she spoke when no one else would. And that's what this whole thing comes down to: voice. Who gets to speak? Who gets punished? Who gets protected? Who gets pushed aside? So ask yourself this. If the league's most honest voice is being fined and threatened, what does that say about everyone else who's been staying silent out of fear? Because Sophie's brave, sure, but she's also rare. Most players don't want the heat. Most want to stay in the league's good graces. So what happens when they can't anymore? What happens when the floodgates open and more players start calling out the favoritism? The inconsistency? The silence surrounding Caitlin Clark? If the WNBA thinks they can find their way out of this, they've learned nothing. The players have voices. The fans have eyes. And the narrative? It's already out of their hands. So what now? Do they keep doubling down? Do they slap Sophie with another fine and pretend it's business as usual? Or do they finally wake up and realize they made her a star? Not through highlight reels, not through stat sheets, but through their own punishment system. And if they want to fix it, they need to start listening to Sophie, to Caitlin, to all the players who are tired of being used and silenced. Because the truth is out. The fans know it. The league knows it. And Sophie? She's just getting started. The thing about trying to silence someone like Sophie Cunningham, it never works. You can hit her with fines, slap warnings on her DMs, and call her into backroom meetings all you want, but she's already cracked the code. She's figured out that in today's WNBA, the loudest voice isn't in the front office. It's in the comments section, on TikTok, in podcast clips, and right there under the For You tab, where the league can't mute the narrative. Sophie Cunningham has stopped playing nice. And honestly, that's exactly what the league needed. Because here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. The WNBA is losing control of its own story. They had everything. Caitlin Clark setting records. Paige Buchers lighting up the scoreboard. Rivalries forming. Crowds growing. Mainstream media finally paying attention. And then they blinked. Instead of protecting their stars, they picked favorites. Instead of listening to their players, they punished them. Instead of building a foundation, They try to slap duct tape on a narrative leak. And now Sophie is running with the mic they try to rip out of her hands. She's not some unhinged wild card ranting for clout. She's not screaming into the void. She's calculated, calm, strategic. And every time the WNBA tries to box her in, she just gets more valuable. Because here's the playbook. Step 1, speak up for Caitlin Clark. Step 2, get fined. Step 3, go viral. Step 4, watch your brand explode. Rinse, repeat, monetize. That's the new WNBA hustle, apparently. The league accidentally turned Sophie into a full-blown media empire. And it's not just fans taking notice. Brands are watching. Networks are watching. Other players? Definitely watching. And they're realizing something terrifying for the league. Maybe Sophie's way works. Maybe keeping your head down, playing safe, and waiting for the league to promote you isn't the only path anymore. Maybe going rogue, speaking your truth, backing your teammates, calling out injustice is how you get seen. And if that becomes the standard, if more players follow suit, the WNBA won't just be dealing with Sophie. They'll be dealing with dozens of Sophies. Because the floodgates are already starting to crack. Whispers are turning into side eyes. Side eyes are turning into quotes. And quotes are turning into viral moments that the league cannot control. Let's get real about what's actually happening here. The WNBA has created a system where compliance is rewarded, but compliance doesn't sell. Personality sells. Courage sells. Mess sells. And no one's doing it better than Sophie Cunningham. She's leaned into the role of bad girl of the W. But make no mistake, this isn't some clout-chasing performance. It's the product of a league that ignored its warning signs and tried to patch everything with slogans and soft press releases. They wanted silence. They got a siren. And now, every time Sophie gets fined, it's not punishment, it's proof. Proof that the league is insecure, that it's defensive, that it doesn't want transparency, it wants control. But control is gone. It left the moment Sophie said what everyone else was too afraid to. Caitlin Clark is not being protected. This league plays favorites. The silence is the real scandal. And in response, the WNBA thought they could discipline that kind of honesty. Please. Now Sophie's monetizing the chaos. She's branded herself into the one player who won't fold. And that's the kind of story fans cling to. Because in a league where stars are pre-packaged, where quotes are media-trained and risks are carefully managed, Sophie's energy is electric. Raw. Human. She's not pretending to be perfect. She's not wearing the role model mask. She's saying, I'm pissed, and you should be too. And we are. Because when you break it down, this isn't just about Sophie or Caitlin. It's about a culture. One that penalizes players who speak. One that lets silence fester around its biggest controversies. One that still doesn't know how to handle players who own their voice. The WNBA's player management right now, it's like trying to tape together a broken mirror and calling it art. And Sophie? She's holding up that shattered mirror on Instagram Live, saying, look at this mess. And people are. The momentum she's building? It's unstoppable. Fans are reposting her clips. Commentators are defending her. Even players on other teams are liking her posts. She's got the momentum the league thought it could engineer, except she didn't wait for permission. She took it. And this is the nightmare scenario for the WNBA brass. A player who doesn't need them. A narrative they can't kill. A voice that gets louder the more they try to quiet it. So what now? Do they keep finding her? Do they risk turning her into the face of the rebellion? Do they let the public keep seeing these punishments as proof of a cover-up? Or do they sit down, apologize, listen, reform? Because the longer they wait, the more obvious it becomes. Sophie Cunningham is not the problem. She's the symptom. The problem is a league that still thinks power is top-down, when clearly it's bottom-up now. The fans choose. The players choose. The stories that rise can't be filtered through the PR machine anymore. And the most ironic part? Sophie's actually helping the WNBA. She's making it relevant, making a trend, making people care. The league should be thanking her. Instead, they're trying to fine her into silence. But silence? That's not the brand anymore. Voices. Honesty is. And Sophie's got all of it. So here's the final thought. You can't mute a movement. You can't fine away the truth. And you definitely can't underestimate someone who already knows the system is rigged. The league tried to play her. Now she's playing them.